Hey everyone, I'm Karan from Enable. Welcome back to the official video tutorial series on AbleSet. Next up, let's talk about song sections. There's a lot to discover here, so we'll have 3 subchapters in this video. First, we'll talk about how sections let you divide your songs for quicker navigation and add more detailed information to different song parts. Then, we'll check out some more advanced playback options, so jumping between sections, looping sections, and using pauses. And finally, we'll talk about the count-in feature, which enables seamlessly starting a song from any section while you're performing. Setting up sections is straightforward. First, I'm going to create a MIDI track, and I'm going to name it Sections. And what I need to do then is I need to mark the area of the section I want to create. For instance, in this song, this is the verse area, and then I'll go ahead and I'll create an empty MIDI clip, or use the shortcut Command-Shift and M, and then I will name this Verse 1. You'll see now that in my set list, I can open up this song and I have the verse 1 section right here. I'll go through the rest of the song and repeat this for all my other sections until my entire song is mapped. Okay, great. So I've got all my sections set up, and now I can just click on any of these sections and start playback from there. This is extremely handy in rehearsals when you're focusing on a certain part of a song. Now I can use the up and down arrows on my keyboard to go back and forth between sections. And these commands for navigating to the previous and next section can also be mapped to your MIDI controller. Check out the video on MIDI mapping if you want to learn more about this. Okay, now I've gone ahead and created the sections for all the different songs in my set list, and you'll see that they appear in AbleSet right here. As you can see, the set list is now quite long, so I'm just going to go ahead and collapse some of these songs. But what you can actually do while you're performing is to enable a setting down here in the setlist settings, which is called auto expand the current song. And now if I select a song, only that song will be expanded. This way you're only seeing the song you're currently playing, and the other sections aren't cluttering up your set list. In the setlist settings, I also like to enable auto scroll to the current song or section. This way AbleSet will always scroll to the song that I'm currently on in the set list. And the cool thing is this also works if I just click around somewhere in my arrangement in Ableton. AbleSet will always show me where I am. Okay, let's say you're not a fan of expanding song sections. Then I would go ahead and disable auto expand the current song. But what you can do then is that you can actually choose to show your section names right here. And if I now enlarge the AbleSet window, you will see that for my currently selected song, AbleSet shows me the sections in this progress bar right here. This way you always get a clear visual of where you are without opening the full section list. And lastly, there's an option to actually number your songs and your sections this way. And this can be especially useful in non-musical contexts. Think theater or corporate shows, where numbered calling is more common. Next, let's look at a few more ways to customize sections. Just like with song locators, this is done directly in Ableton Live itself. So for instance, to add a description to a section, I can go into that clip name, and then in curly braces, I will add the description I want. I use this for quick musical notes like sing-along, or for instance, when the drums come in. Just like with songs, AbleSet will actually calculate the section's length, but I can also go in, as I did before, and set a custom length for a certain section if I need to do that by using square brackets. And I'll show you where that comes in handy in just a moment. For me, color coding sections is a must for fast navigation. AbleSet has a really simple way to do this with what is called a flag. So flags basically are commands you include in the name of a song, a clip, or a track that communicate information to AbleSet. They always start with a plus. So for instance, if I add plus clip colors to my section name, or I can also use the short version plus CC, and then I can go ahead and make this verse clip yellow and this chorus clip red, you'll see that these colors will be mirrored right here in AbleSet as well. I've gone ahead and created color-coded sections for all my different songs, so this way I can quickly identify different section types across my songs. Next, let's talk about the different possibilities sections open up when performing. As we've seen, you can use them to navigate throughout your song. However, one important detail, when using section clips, it's only possible to jump to a section while playback is stopped. If you need to jump during a performance when playback is running, Ableton requires a locator at the start of that section. Since you'd want to avoid going through your entire session manually and creating these locators, AbleSet actually offers a handy helper tool for this. If I go into the settings up here, and then just scroll down to Tools, I can select Place Locators on Section Clips. And then you'll see that AbleSet just goes through the Ableton session and creates locators for all your different section clips. Just know that depending on your session size, this might take a bit of time. And we also recommend saving and reopening the session afterwards, since Ableton can be a bit laggy and flash the disk overload icon when adding many locators at once. Now, once this is done, I can click on a section even while playback is active, and AbleSet will jump there. Just make sure that safe mode is off, otherwise these jumps are blocked. If you later decide that you don't actually need any dynamic section jumps, you can just go back into the settings, and there's a separate tool down here where you can remove the automatically placed locators. And the great thing is you can also mix and match. Just manually add a locator to the few sections where you want the flexibility. When AbleSet is playing, you'll notice section names are grayed out unless there's a locator, so you can always see which sections can be jumped to and which can't. Again, we generally advise to only use locators where you really need them to keep your session running smoothly. Now, while we're looking at jumping between different sections, we should also have a quick look into jump modes. These define how AbleSet times a jump. I can check out the different options in the settings right here. And there are 5 jump modes available. Quantize will stick to whatever your global quantization in Ableton Live is. Generally, we'd recommend keeping this at 1 bar, so the jumps will always happen at the start of the next bar, like I showed you before. But you can also have the option to queue up a jump a bit more in advance. I can use the option to jump at the end of a section. If I now go back into my set list and start playing the chorus, and then I cue the second verse, you'll see that AbleSet will have this glowing indication that it's about to jump as soon as the chorus ends. Beyond that, there's also an option for an end of song jump mode, and this will wait for the entire song to finish before jumping. If I select this, I'm also given the option to always keep playing when jumping to a queued song. This will basically override my selected stop behavior and just continue playback when triggering a jump. However, in most cases, end of song only makes sense when jumping to a song, not a section. For this scenario, AbleSet has a dynamic jump mode. With this, queuing a section will use the end of section jump behavior when you queue a section, and uses end of song if you queue a song. The manual jump mode is quite interesting as well, since it splits up the jumping process into 2 steps. Let me show you back here in the setlist. So if I'm playing this song right here, I can queue up the next song and you'll see that it'll be glowing, but I now need to trigger the jump separately. I can do this with either of these jump buttons down here. The left one will trigger a quantized jump, so again according to Ableton's quantization, and the right one will trigger an instant jump. I can also use the related shortcuts J and Shift J. 1, 2, 3, 4. These jump buttons are also available in other jump modes, basically letting me temporarily override my selected mode with a quantized or an instant jump. Now, as you can imagine, being able to MIDI map these jump buttons is really practical, but you're going to need to use a custom OSC command for this. We're going to cover this in a later video, but if you're already familiar, these are the commands. With sections, you can also pre-program how you'd like the playhead to behave. And this is once again done with the help of flags. Let me show you what I mean. A simple one is just inserting plus pause at the end of this section name. And now if I go out from the verse 1 section into the pre-chorus section, you'll see that AbleSet has paused playback. This is also indicated by this little pause icon in the setlist view. I can now press play and AbleSet will continue playing from here. You can use this for intros where you only need to load a patch, or for breaks with no fixed length so you can restart playback flexibly. Another common way to add flexibility during a live show is using loops. Say you want to do a crowd interaction in the bridge. You could loop it and play it for however long you need. And then once the crowd is all hyped up, escape the loop and then move on to the chorus. To set this up, I'll add a flag called loopFull, written as one word in all caps. And if I now play from the chorus section, you will see that AbleSet has already positioned the loop brackets around this section and will start looping it. We'll also see that the loop button down here in AbleSet starts glowing. If I click this again, the loop will end and the loop brackets have been disabled and the next section will play. In most performances, it makes sense to pre-configure these loops, but you can also enable them spontaneously. Just hit the loop button while playing and the current section becomes the loop. The keyboard shortcut for toggling the loop is simply the L key on your keyboard, but mostly you're going to want to just control the loop from a MIDI controller, so that's also mappable. Now, back in the MIDI mapping settings, I can find all my loop-related commands over here, and toggle loop will behave just like the L key. But keep in mind that hitting this button by mistake could switch on the loop where you don't need it. To safeguard against that, you could simply map escape loop, and this way the button will only allow you to turn the loop off. and then have another button mapped to enable loop if you need it. Escaping a loop that you created with the plus loop full tag just disables the loop brackets, so the playback just continues playing beyond them. If you don't want to wait until the end of the loop sections, you could simply use the plus loop flag instead. Now, escaping the loop actually interrupts it earlier by jumping to the next section. Just keep in mind that the jump mode settings will affect the timing of the jump, so if you want full flexibility, we'd recommend a quantized jump, and you'll also need locators on your sections for this to work. Also, just beware that once you deactivate this type of loop and the jump is queued, you can't reactivate the loop anymore. Now, if you use guide tracks, you might stumble upon this hiccup when looping. As you can hear, my chorus cue keeps on playing, even though I'm still looping the bridge. To solve this, what I can do is add a flag called the guide flag. So if I type on my cues track, a flag called plus guide, and I just start playback again, you'll notice that this track has now been muted because I'm in the loop. And as you can see, we're not hearing the chorus cue. But as soon as I escape this loop right here, you'll see the track has been activated and we get the cue. Chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, just a quick best practice tip, always place cues at the end of a section like this and make it a habit to disable loops at the section start. That way your cue will always be audible despite having the guide flag. You can take this one step further with the plus loop guide flag, which is the inverse. It unmutes a track while you're looping and mutes it otherwise. So to show you how this works, I've already duplicated my cue track and named it loop cues, and I'm going to add the plus loop guide flag again in all caps and just as one word. Now, if I click into the active loop, you'll notice that my loop guide will be active while my normal guide is inactive. If I click outside of the loop, my normal guide is active and my loop guide is deactivated. So now if I press play within the loop, what you're going to hear is that we get a bridge cue before we start looping the bridge once more. Bridge. But if I now disable the loop, my normal cues are active and we'll hear the chorus cue. Chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, one more cool thing I can do is actually pre-program a set number of loops. So I have my loop full flag right here. If I now go back and I add a colon and a number of loops, for instance, I want to loop this part 4 times, AbleSet will actually escape this loop after playing it for the 4th time. AbleSet will also give you an indication in which turnaround of the loop you're currently in. Okay, so we can use sections to pause and to loop. Another thing we can do is actually skip sections and pre-program section jumps. To skip a section, I'll add the plus skip flag to the section name. And if I now go out of the previous section, you'll see that this one will actually be skipped. This lets you shorten a song without any edits enabled in live. Just be mindful of any clicks and obvious level changes in your backing tracks when skipping. Skips are shown in AbleSet with this gray arrow right here, and you can see that skipped sections will actually appear without their section color, indicating to you that they will actually not be played. Also, if I add skip flags to multiple consecutive sections within my song, AbleSet will actually skip the entire block. Another way to skip multiple sections is to use 3 larger than symbols to tell AbleSet exactly where to jump. If I add outro to this section right here, then you can see AbleSet has created that jump for me right here. You can even jump backwards to an earlier section instead. So I could, for instance, say I want to go back to my second verse, but just keep in mind that skips and jumps always require locators. And if you do forget to place a locator, AbleSet will actually give you an indication right here. Once I set the locator on my second verse, the jump will be visible in AbleSet. And just like we had the loop guide flag for loop-specific cues, I can also create jump-specific cues. For this, I've once again duplicated my cue track, and I'm going to add the flag jump guide. As you can see now, if I'm in a section where there's a jump at the end, my jump guide will be active while all my other guides are inactive. Now let's look at how to drop right into the middle of a song during a show. Let's say you want to start from the verse 2 section right here. There are 2 challenges. First, if I start playback right here, it's tricky for all musicians to sync up to the tracks, so ideally I'd want to start playback maybe 1 or 2 bars before this section. However, if I do that, the backing tracks at the end of the post-chorus will be audible to the audience, which is not great either. This is why AbleSet has a handy count-in feature that addresses both these issues. We're going to go to the settings, and we're going to go down to section count-in and enable it right here. If I now go back into the set list, you'll notice that AbleSet will actually place the playhead 2 bars before the section that I've selected. My section is now glowing and queued up, indicating that there's a count in. And you'll also notice that AbleSet has soloed the click for me. So if I now press play, I get 2 bars of click pre-roll. And once those are over, you can actually hear that AbleSet will unsolo the click.
Lonely, and I don't like to get played.
This way I can start playback without the audience noticing it. Everyone can sync up to the click and come right in at the verse 2 section. Let's go back to the settings to tweak some more of our count in options. If I want a shorter pre-roll, I can select 1 bar instead, or for a longer pre-roll, I've got the option to go with 4 bars. And if I'm using count in, for instance, a rehearsal scenario where I don't need click soloing, I can disable it right here. For now, I'll just leave it on though. By the way, AbleSet identifies your click by looking for tracks named click, like this one right here. If I had this track named differently, for instance, metronome, then this wouldn't work. But to counteract this, I could actually once again add a flag. I'll just name this plus click. And now if I have count in activated, you see that this metronome track will still be soloed. You can also tag multiple click tracks like this if you need it. The cool thing is that since AbleSet can now identify which track your click is coming from, I can map click soloing to a MIDI controller. Back in the MIDI mappings, I've got different options for soloing the click or even muting the click. You can already imagine how this can be useful. Let's say the band has gone off track, just solo the click to keep everyone in time while you realign playback. Muting clicks probably has fewer use cases, but it's there if you need it. Let us know what you might use it for in the comments. Okay, great. We now know everything there is to know about sections and how to use them effectively. Next up, we'll talk about tailoring the setlist view to your needs. Stick around to see it in the next video. To pick up your copy of AbleSet, head over to ableset.com and check out Enable for more tips on playback and setting up Ableton Live. If you find these videos helpful, please leave us a like and please subscribe.